Hello friends, this is Shelley from Koala Knits and Knacks. Thank you so much for joining me in another tutorial. We're going to make this adorable fox. Now I have a collection started on my channel. I have a Cuddle bunny and a Cuddle bunny baby, and I have a Cuddle bear on my channel. And now we're going to add the Cuddle fox Lovie to that collection, and I'm so excited about it. I used Heartland yarn, Lion Brand Heartland yarn in the colorway Yosemite, and I used my Addi 46 and 22 needle machine. You'll find the yarn particulars in the description box below. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and come on over to my Facebook group. I'll put the link in the description box below. I also want to make mention that I do have a PayPal link underneath this video. I appreciate so much your support in that way, but I do want you to be reminded that I do offer these patterns too for free of charge, and I'm happy to do so. But if you want to support this channel in that way, then please click on the link below. It does take a lot of time and yarn to make this channel work, as I have so many patterns and I put out on a regular basis. But again, it's free for you, and I'm so happy to do that. So friends, once you have your supplies ready, we're going to get started on this beautiful Cuddle Fox Lovie. I hope you enjoy it. Have fun, my friends. We're going to take our working yarn and we're going to set aside a piece. We're going to stretch it across our machine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's probably enough, but I'll do 8, one for good measure. And this is to be put aside, and we're going to use this to put a line in to cinch the neck when we're at that point. We're going to now grab our waste yarn, which is a color of yarn that is easily seen against your working yarn, so that when we go to close a flat edge on our piece, we can see the stitches very easily. So we're going to bring our last white, our first black needle, in line with our yarn feeder. And with that waste yarn, oops, got it all tangled around here. We're going to cast on in front of that first black and behind, in front and behind, all the way around. Just like that, letting it slip through my fingers. I'm not putting any extra tension on it. It should be behind that last white, into the yarn feeder. First row, you want to go slow because these little loops have to go down over the red teeth, just like that. And there's no weight pulling it down. So sometimes they want to snag and go in between the needles and just cause you havoc. So you want to go slow on that first round to make sure that they catch. There we go. I always pull this little loop down too. And now I'm going to knit 7 rows. It's just my go-to amount of rows that I knit. Every time I try to lessen it, even though I know I can, I don't. I like it at 7. So that's what I'm going to do. This is 3, 4. And you'll notice that I marked that divider between my last white and my first black needle with a black permanent marker, so I always see when it comes around, and I know when the beginning of my row is, or the end of my row, however you want to look at it. I've lost count here, so I'm going to do one more. I think this is 7. This is 6 or 7, but this will be good. Before I get to the end, I'm going to set my row counter to 0. So it's ready to go. I'm going to wait till that gets in the front of my yarn guide, then I can stop, cut off my yarn tail, open the latch, put that yarn tail between the last white, the first black. Then we're going to go ahead and grab our working yarn. I just roll this into a cake. So I'm going to tuck that in there and put this down on the floor. And we're going to begin. We've got our counter set to 0. We're going to add our yarn into the center of our machine between the last white, the first black, and we're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. And then we're going to pop that down over the yarn divider there, over the divider there, and we're going to pull on both ends. See how that snugged it up in there? That gives us a nice tension on our first few stitches, just like the rest of the work. Otherwise, it's all loopy and loose. So I always do that at the beginning of every color change row. And we're going to just continue knitting and knitting and knitting. If you're using the same yarn that I'm using, your machine, whether it is your Addi or your Sentro, either one, because I have 3 Sentros as well. All of the machines love this Heartland yarn. So I haven't used it now in a while for a video, but I'm realizing already after 5 rows that I gotta go pick some more, up some more colors. So I'm gonna keep going, friends, until we have 43 rows. When you have 43 rows in it, come back and see me. Just finishing up row 43, watching for that black divider to come around, and there it is. You can cut off your yarn tail, open your latch, pop that into the center of your work between the last white and the first black. Then you're going to grab that piece that you cut off earlier, okay? So we're going to take that. This is going to be what's going to cinch our neck from our body. Generally, if we were going to keep the face, the head the same color, then we wouldn't have cut this off. We would have just popped this into the center here, but we are going to be switching colors. So we're going to pop that into there. We don't have to worry about the tension here because this is our drawstring. We are going to knit 1 round, watching very carefully for that black divider to come around, and there it is. See, I did cut length too long, but that's okay. I'd rather be safe than sorry, because if you get part way around and then you run out, it's not good. You have to attach a piece and it's just not good. So we're going to take these two. Now, which one is my... this one is coming off of my work. These two are the ones that are my gathering ones. So I'm going to just put a little bow in there, keep them straight, and then I can untie later. Isn't that pretty? We're going to grab our white yarn. And we are going to put this, first of all, we're going to change our row counter to 0. We're going to pop our white yarn into our yarn feeder. We're going to do a jogless join on this one. So we're going to go around to the other side of that white needle, just like that. Then I'm going to hold all these tails. I'm going to knit 3 or 4 needles. I'm going to pop that down under. I'm going to snug that up. And I'm going to go very slowly. This is, even though they're both 4-weight yarns, this one is a little bit heavier to the feel. And this whole ball of yarn, pound of love yarn, has given me, it's the only time I've never had a pound of love ball that has had this many knots in the center, but it's constant with this one. But that's okay, we're persevering, and because it never really happens, I can't complain. So this is 2, 3, I'm gonna do 8 rows of white. 4, I'm just going to stick with you. 5, another ball of yarn that works great in our machines, or brand of yarn, I should say. This is 6, 7, and one more is 8. Watching for that black divider to come around. I'm going to cut off this yarn tail, pop that into the center between the last white, the first black. Then we are going to grab our fox colored yarn again, our initial yarn. Pop that in between the first 2 needles, the last white, first black, and we're going to knit 4 needles, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to tighten it. Pop that in there. We're going to do 8 rows of this color. So when our counter says 16, there we go. This is 10. When our counter gets to 16, I'll see you back. 8 rows of this color. All right, so I just finished row 16, but I'm going to take these 2 tail ends because I did not do a jogless join, which is, it's okay. We didn't do a jogless join, so we're going to tie a knot here while it's on our project, and then we're going to cut it off. I always like to do a jogless join, but sometimes I'll admit when I'm talking to you, I forget. And so I don't do it. And this one down here, we did do a jogless join, but the problem is that the yarn that was preceding it was the one that's our gather yarn. So we're not going to... we can just pull those 2 just like that, and we can do that on the machine too. This is the gather yarn that was beside it, so you can pull those 2 and it will make a jogless join there. But then you're going to take this other one and we're going to tie it while it's on the machine. When you have a bunch of jogless joins, lots of color changes, then I always do them off the machine. But when you just got a couple, you can do it that way. So this one we did a jogless join, this one I forgot to, but that's okay. We'll tie them. And so now I've got 16 rows here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our yarn tail. So we did 43, then we put our our line in there, we did 8 rows of white, and we did 8 rows of this rust color again, okay? So once you get your yarn guide in there, set your row counter to 0 again. So you begin counting 8 and 8. We're gonna pop that into the center. We're gonna take our waste yarn, pop that back into the center between the last white and the first black. And we're going to knit 7 rows. And friends, I'm going to keep going till I get 7 rows. And generally then, once you have your waste yarn, the amount of rows that you want on, you cut your tail, you put it in between the last white, the first black, you rotate your barrel twice and it takes it off. But we're gonna do it a little differently this time. It's a practice that I've started to do, suggested by a member in my Facebook group. It's a great group. If you're not in that group, please come over and join. It's exclusively the Cuddle Knits and Knacks patterns. I have like 200 and almost 60 patterns on my channel already, on my YouTube channel, and we have over 20,000 members in my Facebook group. So I feel that it's okay to just do exclusively a group from my channel. There's enough there to keep us busy. So anyways, one of my members said, why don't you, Shelley, why don't you just cut off a yarn tail? So we're going to cut one off that's long enough to go around our barrel 1.5 times. And we're going to put that on our needle. And we are going to cast off as though we're gathering it, as though we're doing a gathered cast off. And that's only because then it holds these stitches, because we're gonna be doing some work with this, and once it jostles around, sometimes this will start unraveling, and then you're gonna risk getting down to your project and having that unravel. And so this line that we're gonna now put in will hold our stitches secure. And I thought that is brilliant. So I'm gonna rotate that around. Make sure you only come to about this point, because if you go any further, this white needle is gonna, or black needle is gonna pop up, and this loop will fall off your needles and drop your row. So you wanna catch it before it does that. But this way, this line is going to hold those stitches so that we don't start dropping our rows while we are working on our project. If you're doing, you know, sometimes if I'm doing a blanket or something and I'm gonna close my ends right away, and it's just a straight join, I don't do this. I just make sure I take care of it right away. But we're going to be doing both sides on this project. So I just wanna hold it in place and not lose anything. Don't pull on this to gather it though, because we don't need a gathered end. So friends, I'm gonna just go around and I'm gonna continue taking off all my stitches. Hold them on your needle with your thumb. Pull straight out like this. If you pull up, then you'll risk dropping the loop off of that next needle. So there we go. I'll meet you friends when you get to the end. We've got our piece off the machine. Now we're gonna stretch it widthwise and lengthwise. Look at how much more beautiful that is. I say it every time, but I love it. I love this part. There we go. Oh, this is so soft. I love this yarn so much. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna close this bottom edge here. Okay, that was the beginning of our project. We're going to take 2 stitch markers. Let me just grab them here. You're going to look for the waste yarn. And the loop that it's coming out of is this one. See, if I pull on that, this is the one it's coming out of. We're gonna pop our stitch marker into that loop. That's why you need a contrasting color so you can see what you're doing. Then you're gonna take your working yarn, which is there, and right beside it is that stitch. We're gonna pop our stitch marker in there. Make sure your tails are both outside of your work. We know there are 46 stitches around, so we need to find stitch 23 and 24. So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and I'm gonna pop my hook in 24. I know that's the exact side, right like that, okay? I'm gonna count that as number 1. I'm gonna go up to the top here, put it through the loop, that's 2. Go down to the bottom, grab that next stitch, bring it through the loop, that's 3. See now how you can see these little loops? These are all the stitches that we need to pick up. So we're gonna go to the very next one, which is this one. Pick it up, put it through the loop on your hook. That's 4. Go down to the bottom, grab the next one, 5, and we're going to keep doing that. 6, all the way across. 7, 8, oops, come on, 9, 10, what size did I grab here? It's 5, yeah. 11, that's usually what I use. 12, 13, 14, we're going to go all the way across. I'll see you at the end. I've made it to the end, and when you're at the end, this bottom one is always going to be 45. So you can work 45. If it's not 45, you've messed up somewhere along here and not grabbed enough stitches or grabbed something that wasn't a stitch. And here's where the bobby pins are nice, because that one is tucked in there and hiding, and if you never had a stitch marker in it, it'd be hard to grab. So you just got to pull up on your stitch marker, get underneath there, and take that out. That's 46. Let's work 46. Then you're going to yarn over with your tail, pull it through that 46th stitch, and press down with your thumb to tighten. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remove this waste yarn. So you're going to roll up your edge to find that very top row, and you see if I rock it, it goes through that stitch. Pinch the stitch. I'm about 5 or 6 stitches in, and I'm going to go down farther, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 stitches, maybe more. Pinch the stitch, pull out the top row. Go around again, roll it up, find that top row, pinch the stitch, pull out the row, and continue on until I get that full row undone, just like this. And this isn't long enough to get in my way. If it's really long, then I put it on my needle and I hide it down into my work, just leaving a loop so I can pull it back up, and that way it doesn't get all tangled. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna remove our waste yarn now. And I can use this yarn again because, whoops, maybe I can't. Look at that, snagged it on a stitch. And we're just gonna remove it. Go ahead, keep pulling and winding till you have your waste yarn removed. Just like that. I can still use this. It was just like one little strand of the yarn that was caught there. Okay, we have our waste yarn off. There we go, we've got a beautiful edge. We're gonna take our needle. We're gonna put that tail onto it, and we're gonna hide it. I'm going to just go back and forth here a couple times through a few stitches. And then go back. And then pop it into my work in between the 2 layers. Pull it out, cut it off. And we're going to set this aside because we can't close up. I'm going to cut this part off though. We can't close this this end until we have our inside piece in. So we're going to leave this for now, and we are going to grab our 46 needle machine, and we're going to make the inside layer for our head. Bring the last white, the first black, in line with our yarn guide. We're going to cast on with waste yarn in front of that first black, back and forth. Just like this. So we get to that last white needle, and it should be behind that last white needle. We're going to go slow for this first round like we did for the body. There we go. I'm going to knit 7 rounds. Coming up on the end of round 7, I'm going to set my row counter to 0 before it clicks, and I'm going to cut off my yarn tail, open the latch, pop that between the last white, the first black. I'm going to then grab my working yarn. I'm going to pop it into the center there between the last white, the first black, hold both tails, knit 4, pop down, tighten up, and we're going to knit 8 rows of this color. 2. Coming up on the end of row 8, I'm going to cut off a tail, not a very long one, just cut it off, pop it into the center between the last white, the first black, and we are going to grab our white yarn. We don't need to do a jogless join on this because this is the inside head, and we're not going to see it anyway. So we're going to just knit 3 or 4, tighten that, then we're going to tie a tight knot right here. This is how you change colors on your work if you don't do a jogless join. Okay, there we go. And we're going to knit 8 rows of white, taking us to row 16 on our counter. Just clicked on row 16 and I'm watching for that black divider to come around, and there it is. So now you're going to cut off a tail that's long enough to go around your barrel 1.5 times, and we're going to cast off. Open your latch, pop that tail between the last white and the first black. I very rarely use this needle, but it's actually nice. You know, it fits right in this little loop here. Did you ever know that? That's where it sits. It came with the machine. I never put it there, but that's where it sits. If you want to use that. I'm going to rotate my barrel until I see that black divider coming almost around. Not fully around, because I don't want this needle pops up. This one's going to pop up next, and then this one, and I don't want it to pop up and push off my loop. So once I get it down into the machine, then I have the freedom to take off these loops. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all the way around and release every stitch. Once you get some slack on there, as I've said before, then you can start picking up more than one at a time. So I've got 5 off. I'm going to rotate my barrel. Then you can just start taking them off like this. And pull it straight out. Because if you pull up, you could drop this next loop off. And you don't want to do that. So just a reminder for that too. All right, friends, go ahead, take off all 46 stitches, and I'll see you back when you're done. Taking our piece that we just took off the machine, we're going to give it a good stretch. Just like this, all the way around. We are going to close up the top part here where our waste yarn is before we do anything else. Okay, we're going to make sure our yarn tails are outside of our work. We're going to take our handy dandy stitch markers, and we're going to mark our first stitch on this side. So pull on that waste yarn tail. There it is. That loop it's coming out of is number 1. To the left of it, where our working yarn is, that loop that's right beside it is number 46. We're going to do the same thing we did with the other piece. We're going to count around to 23 and 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Those are our 2 very side stitches. I'm going to go under 24, count that as number 1, then go up to 23, put it on my hook and put it through that loop. That's 2, down to the bottom, 3, up to the top, 4, down to the bottom, 5, 6, 7, 8, back and forth till you get to the end, and I'll meet you there. Get in there. This is 45. Can take that bobby pin out, lift up on this one, and 46. We're going to yarn over with our tail, pull it through, push that knot down with your thumb, then we're going to remove our waste yarn. Rolling up to the first row, pinching the stitch, and pulling. You can go quite a distance in between. There we go. See how big that one was? And one more. And then I can remove the waste yarn. So I'm going to continue doing that. I'll see you back. There we go. Taking our needle, if I can grab it here, we're going to just hide our tail. Oops, might have to use this little gadget. Pop that through, pull it through, and tuck this into the work. It's not that big of a deal because this is on the inside of the head, but we still should do it properly. There you go. Now what you're going to do is you're going to pull on this bottom one. We're not going to pull it completely closed yet because we have to stuff it. But I'm going to cut this off so it's not so long to work with. We're going to take some filling, fiber fill, and we're going to stuff this little head up into the corner, across to this corner. We're going to pull this a little bit tighter. Pop that in there. I think just a little bit more. There we go. I think that's going to be good. Now we're going to just tie this off, cut this again, put it on my needle. Pull that through. And I'm going to go around and I'm going to reinforce this so it's closed. Going around that first row of stitches and pulling. Continuing my way around and pulling. And you see how it tightens? Just wondering if I need to add more. No, I think it's good. And continuing around and pulling a little bit more. I'm going to just tie off with the knot. And again. I can pop that in out the side here, cut it off. Grab your main piece and we will put this inside. We've got our main piece, and what we need to do here is we need to grab our cinch yarn here. So here's where it is. It'll be hidden on the inside, but we put a little tie there so we can distinguish which one it is. I'm going to put this on both of these strands on my needle, and I'm going to put them through that hole. It's right there, and bring them to the other side so that we can gather from this side. We're going to then go ahead and pull it just to get that started. I'm holding them both and pulling. There we go. I want to even out my gathers. Just get it so that it looks like about that. Now, if I take my tape measure, I would say 3 inches is about a good width for this to be. Now we're going to take our head, we're going to pop it in there, we're going to bring this up, and we're going to close this off. So you're going to need to take your stitch markers again. I went and put them away. Why did I do that? And we're going to mark these the same way. So we're going to take our waste yarn, and where it's coming out through this loop here, that's the one we're going to take. This one looks a little bit different. Okay. And then we're going to take another one. And to the left of that, you see your working yarn here. Now the working yarn is coming through this loop, and it's coming, if you pull on it, it's this loop right up here, the very top loop. And when you pull on it, it's pulling on your working yarn. So if I pull that, there we go. That's the loop it's attached to. That's the one you want to take. Then you're going to take your 2 yarn tails and make sure they're outside of your work. And we're going to do the same thing. Now this is why we double layer this. See the fiber fill through this piece? we don't want to see that. If you had a single, if you just use this and you didn't put an insert in there, you're going to see the fiber fill through this. So friends, don't miss out on that part. Sometimes I see that people will make these and they'll in their head, there must be thinking, oh, I'm not going to waste yarn. I'm not going to do that extra step. I'm just going to close it up. It doesn't look as professional. I'm telling you, it doesn't look as nice because you can see the fiber fill through it, and you don't want that. If you're going to go to all the work of making one of these, do the little extra step and put the insert inside. Okay, so we're going to go around and we're going to count to 24. Put our hook under 24, pick up 23 and go back and forth and close it off like what we've done twice already. And we're going to remove our waste yarn, and when we get to that stage, I'll see you back. There we go, made it around. And if your tail is really long like this, you can, actually we can just hide it now. I was gonna show you what you do. I'll show you a technique that we do if you're new. You just stick it into the head like that, and you put your finger in there so you have a loop so that you can grab it and take it out later, and then you can undo this top row and it doesn't get caught around there. But the thing is that we don't need to use this to sew anything on this particular project. So we are going to take that, I'm going to just fold that down, and I'm going to just weave in and out of a couple of these strands of work just like that. Then I'm going to go down in through the head, making sure I don't go into the waste yarn because then I won't be able to unravel it. I'm going to cut it off, then I can take off my waste yarn, roll it up, pinch the stitch, pull out the first row, and remove it like what we've done prior to this. Okay, go ahead, do that, and then come back and see me. All right, so you can see where this is going, but before we shape the head with the ears and make the head look more like a head, we're going to take this yarn end and we're going to just scrunch that up just a little bit more. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit more like that. You're going to go ahead and you're going to tie a knot to secure. I'm going to do 3. You can put that onto your needle. Hide it down into your work, in between the layers there. Pull it out, cut it off. There we go. We're gonna work on the ears and the face, and we'll do the arms last. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab a piece of yarn, put it on your needle, and we're gonna shape our ears. Okay, friends, isn't this fun? I have my yarn on my needle, and you know what? You're gonna just pull up on those ears just a little bit on the side, and just to shape it a little bit better that way, you're gonna take your needle. Now this is really easy. This is my side stitch right here, okay? So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3 stitches up just for reference, and then this is counting of 1 row, this is the second row, this is the third row, okay? So in the third row and the third stitch up, I'm going to bring my needle from the back straight across and come up into that third knit stitch from the third row up. I'm going to pull it through, leaving a tail. Then I'm going to, from this third stitch, so 1, 2, 3 is the next row, 1, 2, 3 is the next row, 4, 5, and into that stitch straight out the back. I'm going to take these two, literally I'm going to tie them just like that. If you turn around, you have a really nice ear. How simple is that? The hardest part is keeping it tight. I'm going to give it a little turn, hold it in place, give that a knot, cut it off, not completely off. Don't hide this yet, because I always say don't tie off and don't hide ends until you have them both done, in case you need to replace them, to place them in a different place. But I needed to tie that off so I could see what it looked like. So now I'm going to do the same thing. 1, oops, here's my one. Wide part of the V is going up, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 3 rows up, I'm going to come from the back into that 3rd stitch. I'm going straight across basically, holding that tail, and then I'm going to go, what did I do? I did 1, 2, and then in this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went 2 more rows over and 2 more stitches up. I think that's what I did on the other side. Do what I did on the other side. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at my video to see what I counted, but I think that's what I counted. But we're gonna tie this off and then we're gonna check it out. If I hold it, I think that's perfect. Okay, I'm gonna tie this off. Give that a turn and it holds it in place. Tie it off. Assess the situation one more time. There we go. Grab some black yarn. We're going to do the face and then we're going to do the arms. Taking some black yarn, we are going to come into the side of the head and we're going to come up to the middle here. So these 3 stitches here are what I would say is the middle. These 3 right here. Just by eyeballing it, those 3 are what I determined to be the middle. We're going to go ahead and we are going to go into half of that stitch across this full stitch and half of that stitch. So I'm going to come up on the side here. I'm going to go in between that first stitch, pull through, leaving a tail. I'm going to go over this second half, over this stitch, and into the second half of this one. And then I'm going to come down into the 3rd stitch below. So I've gone into the middle of this first stitch, over the second stitch, into the middle of the 3rd stitch. Then I've come down 1, 2, 3 stitches. I'm going to go back up into this stitch and across. I'm not pulling too tight because I don't want this to compromise the look of I don't want it to pull this in, so I'm just going to let it rest on the very top of the work, just nice and flat to the work, going back into the point. I'm going to come up and I'm going to go right above that line. I don't want to see that line going across. I'm going to use it as my guide. I'm going to go above it, pull this through, and then I'm going to come back down, back into the point, go back up right beside where that last one was. A pointy needle is essential in this one. Okay, and pull it down. Use your finger to guide that right beside, make it nice and neat. Come back down into the point. Sometimes you have to lower your points a little bit. If it starts to square off, then go a little bit lower. Come up beside that stitch. Use your finger to guide it so it's right beside. Coming back down, and I'm going to do that right across to the other corner, okay? Guiding it with my finger as I go so that I have nice straight stitches. I'm almost there. Into the point, which I'm going to put a little bit lower now, just a very smidgen lower, because it was starting to square off and I don't want that. And there we go. Coming back down. I'm going to pull that. Come up to this corner here and pull it. And you'll see by looking at this, just by me doing the stitches, how wonky this went. I will always go ahead and now go back down to the point, come up to the side. I always outline it once again when I'm done. So I'm going to go outline that side. I'm going to outline this side. And you see how that fixed that problem? I do not like how I see the white up here though. So I'm going to push this up a little bit. I might have to put a bar across there like I said I wasn't going to do, but let me see here. Nope, I think I'm okay. Just going to pull on those stitches just a little bit. There we go. And then you're going to look at it and you're going to see where you need to fill in again. I can see that I need to put one right there. And I'm going to come up. and fill in that little gap right there too. And then reassess whether I need to do the outline again, which I don't, okay? But I don't like those white stitches, so I am going to do what I never do, and I'm going to go into this corner here. I don't like to see the line here, but I think in this case I'm going to like it better if I do. I'm going to go across to this point. Attention to detail is what makes a project beautiful, right? And I'm going to go across, and I'm going to outline that and see how that just finished it off. Go into that corner. I'm going to come back up into my point here, down into my point here, just so that I can finish it off. Pull that nice. That made a beautiful nose, except for this one little white section here, which is good because now I can go back into it. And out where I went in over here. Pull that through. There we go. We have a perfect little nose. I thought I would have enough on here for the whiskers, but I don't, so I'm going to tie off. Put this on my needle. Go into that same hole, out the back. You're going to pull up, cut off, take your needle, pick up your stitches there to hide that, assess the situation. Grab some more black yarn on your needle, and we're going to make the whiskers. Coming up into the side, I'm going to come up right across to this one here, right up into the corner here. And I'm going to just go follow my white line there. So I went up into the corner there. This one's basically going to be straight across. And I'm going to go 1, 2 rows over. Come into the middle, or back up to the point where that started. I'm going to come through just like that. Then I'm going to go down. So 1, 2, 3 rows over, 1 stitch down. I'm going to come back into the same place, just like so. Isn't that just precious? And then I'm going to line up with this one, come down to there. And come, well, actually I'm going to come up into this corner here so I can do the other one, other side. There we go. Pull that through. See? I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. Then I'm going to take it out this space, tie my knot, hide my ends, put more yarn on my needle, and we'll do the eyes. Oh, he's so cute. Okay, so here's where I ended up after I did my third one, but that's good because now I'm going to go back down to this point because I don't like this piece right here. I'm going to go down to this point, up to here, and I'm going to outline it one more time, just like that. Into this point, out this edge. I don't leave it if it's a minor thing and it bugs me. I just make sure I fix it before I say I'm done. Look at how much difference that made. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to carefully pull this tail out so that I don't tighten any of the stitches there. We're going to tie this off, hide my ends. I'm going to put more black yarn on my needle, and we're going to do the eyes. We are going to, again, come up on the side. I'm going to come up. Here's where my whisker ends here. If I put my eyes here, above the whiskers, really close to the whiskers, like about 2 rows up, but position them in those places, I think that's going to be about right. So I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to come up into this stitch, pull that through, and I'm going to just come down. I'm in this stitch, here's the next row over and down. And I'm gonna just repeat that. 1, I'm not pulling tight because I don't want to pull my rows together. 2, okay, I changed my needles. I'm going to go into here to finish the second one. Then I'm going to come over to this other side, and I've got 1, 2 in the third one. Let's go here. 1, 2, that's the third one up. Pull that through. And then I'm going to go down to the second one on the other side. 1, 2 right here. Okay? And then come back up. And back down. Let's see. That eye looks a bit bigger than the other one, so I'm going to take it out. Hey, this is real time, guys. This is what it takes, so I'm going to spend it with you, and you'll see it takes a little time, and I have to take things out too and redo them, but I'm going to go right down to, is that where I was? I'm going to go about 1, 2, 1, 2 right here. I was 1 stitch over. And we're going to put that there and then pass it through one more time so it's a double thickness. Go way underneath that stuffing and out this end where I went in. And we're going to pull that. There we go. Make sure both eyes, like this one is angled this way, and so you want that one to angle the same, like the opposite direction, okay? I did it once and then it was the same way. So I had a slant this way and a slant that way, and it wasn't good. So I spared you that headache as I was online here. But there we go. All right, so we have the face done. We have the ears done. Now we're going to shape the head a little bit better. Pop this onto your needle. Friends, sometimes I make things, I'll come up with a pattern, I'll make one or two, tweak it, then I'll give you the pattern once I have it tweaked. For this particular one, and sometimes I do it with you. I am making this with you. Of course, I've made a bazillion Cuddle Bears before, but I've not made a fox before, and I haven't made a prototype before I came online. I'm doing this with you. So now I think the ears are too off to the side, so I am going to weave this in and out of every stitch at the top here, and you're going to want to do this too. Just go like this, weave it in and out that very top row. I don't know how my brain works, but it does. I come up with these ideas and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So now what you're going to do is you're going to, first we have to tie this one off. We have to tie one end off. So let's do that. We're going to just tie that into a little knot. Oops, I caught that one. Pop that in. Leave it hanging there for a second. Then you're going to take this one and you're going to pull that in. Look what that does. Look what that does. It's going to give us the roundedness. I can't hold that and show you at the same time. The roundedness that we need, and it's going to point those ears up. So there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that with my might. I'm going to hold on to it, then I'm going to tie it off in a knot so it holds its shape. Just like so. Then I'm going to hide that into my work, cut it off, cut this one off, and that's much better. Much, much better. I like that straight line across the top, and that's what I was aiming for. Okay, so now that we have this part done, let's do the last part. Grab your 22 needle machine and your working yarn, and let's make the arms. All right, so if you have your 22 needle, we're going to bring our last white, our first black needle in line with our yarn guide, and we're going to cast on. We're going to go behind, or pardon me, in front of that first black, behind, in front, behind all the way around, just letting that yarn loosely slip through your fingers. Change your row counter to 0 before you get to the end. And it's behind that last white into my yarn feeder. We are going to make sure that those little loops drop down over the red teeth. I'm going to go really slow because sometimes on the cast on row, my 22 needle machine likes to split the yarn between the 2 red teeth. But if I have very little tension and I go slow, I can manage around without that happening, just like what we just did. And I might even have to do it for the second row because there's no weight that's pulling it down. And the 22 needle machine gives more hassle than the 46 when it comes to that. And I know that because everybody says it. And yeah, I don't know why. It's the same needles. That's 4 rows that I just did. So that's how fast it takes to get around with this one. But I don't know why it does that on the 22, but it does. And we just have to have patience. So I'm going to cut off that yarn tail, open my latch, pop that in between the last white and the first black. So I cast on, I knit 4 rows. Now we're going to take our fox color yarn. We're going to add that into our center. We are going to do a jogless join, pop it around to the other side of that white needle, and we're going to tie it while it's still on the machine, but we're going to knit a few rows first. So I'm going to knit 4 or 5 needles. I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to snug that up. This is row 5, 6, 7. I'll do one more, then we'll tie our, this is row 8. What you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 yarn tails and you're going to pull them away from each other. If you can see in there, you'll watch how that snugs up. You probably even could hear that. Back it up and listen. It will snug into place and you'll know when it's in place. And then you're going to tie it. And tie it. And you're going to cut that off. Let that sit into the center. And this way, because when you're knitting in the round, it goes up all the time as you for every round. And then there's a jog. In when you change your colors, you can see the little jut. And by doing, so it's a little jut, one's higher than the other. And by doing the jogless join and then tying them the way we do, it just pulls those up together so it's even. And that's what we just did. So I'm going to keep knitting. We're doing 16 rows of this color. So when our counter gets to row 20, come back. I could stay with you because it doesn't take very long, but I won't. I'll see you when I get to row 20. Just finishing up row 20, I see that black divider coming around. I'm going to cut off a fairly long tail, maybe 8 or 9 inches. That's probably a lot longer than 8 or 9 inches, but that's okay. You want one for sewing onto your project after. So then we're going to put our waste yarn in there, okay? So pop that into the center between the last white, the first black, and you're going to knit 7 rows is what I do of waste yarn. Now I told you at the beginning of the project that we were going to do the drawstring cast off to hold those stitches. For this one, we're not going to because we're going to close it up right away. We're not going to be jostling with it. It's going to be fine. So you're going to open your yarn latch, pop your yarn tail between the last white, the first black. You're going to rotate your handle twice, your barrel twice. And they fall off. Sometimes that last one needs a little bit of help. And there you go. It lets loose and you can give that a little stretch. Now this is what I mean. Like this just will start unraveling very easily. So we're going to make 2 of these, set this aside, make a second one, and then we're going to right away close the ends. All right, so I closed the ends of this one and I sewed it on, and we're going to do the second one together, but I did not tie this off and hide it because if I have to move the arm for any reason, then I can still do that. Like I always tell you, I never do it till I have both pieces on. If I have 2 ears that I'm working on, I never tie off and hide the ends until I have both done. But we're going to take this piece here and we're going to close up this end first before we do anything else because we don't want to start losing our stitches. We're going to bring our yarn tail and our waste yarn tail outside of our work. We're going to grab our 2 stitch markers. When you look at your waste yarn, the loop that it's coming out of is the first loop right there. Right to the left of it, you'll see your working yarn is coming out of this bottom loop. The loop that's right above it is attached to this line, and that's the one you're going to choose. You're going to make sure your yarn tails are outside. You're going to count around to 11 and 12. We have 22 stitches, so halfway is 11 and 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. You're going to put your crochet hook, and I'm going to just grab a smaller one here. I'm going to grab 4.25. I'm going to go into 12, count that as number 1, go up to 11, count that as number 2, oops, down 3, up 4, go across. This will be 21, and this top one will be 22. Then you loop this over and pull it through and tie a knot off, and then you remove your waste yarn. And I will show you, actually, I'll meet you when I get back, because I'm going to show you again how to hide this so that it's not going to tangle all around your waste yarn. So I'll meet you when you get to the end. All right, so your waste yarn doesn't get tangled around this very long tail. When you are removing it, this is what you do. Put this on your hook, or on your needle, pop it into the center of the top there, into one of the stitches, pull it out the side here until you have a loop here. Put your finger in that loop. You don't want to pull it all the way in, because then you don't want to have to search for it later. Then when you pull your waste yarn off, it doesn't get tangled around that end. You're going to pull your waste yarn off. Take this off the needle. Pull this out. And there you go. Voila, done. Now you're going to take this other side and you're going to pull it closed, smoothing out the top as you go. Tucking in those little tails. Just like that. I can cut this off a little bit shorter, but I am going to go around and reinforce it using this needle. My smallest metal needles, the most tiniest ones that are like this. This is a metal wool needle that has a little plastic loop. These are my favorite, and I only had 2 of the smallest ones left, and both of these loops came out, so I have to search for them again. Usually get them Walmart or Amazon, but I do have to order them, so I'm using different needles now, which I don't like as much. I really don't. You get used to it, even a needle, and it makes a difference. This one's okay. But it's not my wool needle. Okay, and once I have reinforced that once, I'm going to go ahead and just pick up one strand there, tie a knot, push that down with my thumb, tie a second one, push that down with my thumb. Then I'm going to pop this into the center there and out the white, pull it so that knot, you could feel it go inside, cut this off. We're going to then go to this side here. We're going to put this onto our needle. I'm going to actually stick with this one. Put this onto our needle, and we are going to fold this in half. You're going to find a row on either side where the wide part of the V, right there, see, is going to the left, and this one too. If on the very side it's like this, so that the point of the V goes to the left, just give it a half a turn to get to that wider part. Okay, so then you're going to line these up beside each other. First, you're going to take this and you're going to go over to this side and you're going to join them. Just like that, and then I do it one more time with a knot. And then with your sides lined up like that, you can see I have the wide part of the V going to the left on this part, and on this part, I'm going to just go into this very top stitch here, pick up this first bar, and then this second bar. Go through. Over to this side, I'm going to do the same thing. Pick up 2 stitches. This is the mattress stitch. Where I came out is right here. I'm going to go into there, pick up 1, 2. Where I came out is right here, 1, 2. Again, many people say, I can't stay on the same row. How do you stay on the same row? Friends, all you got to do is line them up, pinch a few stitches, see how evenly nicely that is. This is a small piece, but it works the same way for a bigger piece. And then when you're looking at your yarn that's coming out of this stitch here, you know that's the row you're on. How can you get twisted and go to a different row or even halfway over if you see that it's coming out there? So it's coming out there, you follow that same row, you go into exactly the same space where this one was coming out, and you pick up 1 and 2. And then you'll be able to keep it straight. Okay, so now I see this is where it's coming out. Right here, I can see that loop. It's coming out of this stitch, so that's the row. I pick up 2. If you focus on that, you're not gonna have a trouble staying on the same row. So then you just smooth it out, hold them together. you see, this is where it's coming out. So that's the row I'm on. I'm going to pick up 2. I'm going to pick up 2. I'm going to pick up 2. And I'm going to pick up 2. This is a small enough piece I can go all the way down. And 2. And 2. And 2. Oh, it keeps going around. And 2. Because it's the invisible join, you can go right into the white with it. And there, and this is going to be against the body anyways, this part. And go right up to that very top point there. And into there where it's coming out, go right up to the top. Then you're going to pinch this end here and pull this. Maybe I should have done it halfway, but there we go. And you've got it completely joined and it's beautiful. You don't even see where your seam is. That is the beauty of the mattress stitch, invisible join. Now, if you pull on this too tight, then you compromise the look of this. So always make sure that you stretch it out after you're done your mattress stitch. So this is nice and loose and tight. Then I'm going to just pop this in again, right beside where it was. Pull it through into this area. I'm going to tie a knot. This is going to be against the body, so you're going to see this little piece here, but that's where I'm going to put the knot. But I want to tie the knot on the same color. There we go. And a second time, I always knot off twice. Then when you stick that into that stitch that's right beside it, pull it up, you can pull that knot in and you won't even see it. See how I just stuck that in? You can't even see it. We're going to cut that off. This is where our seam is. You know it because you can feel it. We're going to put it in the middle, so it's right here. I'm going to take this yarn tail and I'm going to go through that middle and through the middle on the other side. Pull it through, so just long enough that I have a tail that I can tie it with. I'm going to tie a knot right into the middle of that piece. Now, if you've made my Cuddle Bears and watched the video, I can't remember, but what I probably did, let me just tuck this little stitch inside of this little opening there. What I likely did was sew across here and then come back and sew across there, but we don't need to do that because when we sew it onto the body, we are going to sew it closed. We're going to go through both layers like that, okay? So I put this in the middle though all the time because then when I take my piece, and I already did one, I can put it where my side is. There's my side. I'm going to follow it up and right into the very top of that side, I'm going to pick up that stitch and I'm going to put this on. And then it's centered because I have this in the center of my piece and I have it in the center of the neck. This is where my seam was. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up both halves just like that, pull it and go right into the neck, right close to where I was with my last stitch, and just pick up a little bit. I actually like the needle, this needle for this work because it's pointy, much more pointy. Then I'm going to do one more here and I'm going to pick up again right close to where I was. And this is where I do this is what I do for every arm, okay? Now I'm at the edge here. I'm going to go down one row. Here's the side of my arm. I'm going to go down one stitch, pick that up, go into the side here and into the middle, out the middle. Here's the middle. And when I do that and I pull on this, this will round off. So let me show you. Can you see that? It rounded this off into the piece rather than to keep it straight. And so now I'm already in the center. So now I get to go ahead and I get to work on this other half. I hope I'm in the camera because I'm not checking. And then I'm going to go right beside where I was, pick up a piece, pull that on, go back into the arm, pick up a little bit, back into the neck, right close to where I was, sew it on. I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to round off the arm with you. One more there, and into the head or the neck, just like that. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick up the first stitch on the side of the arm there, put that in there, Then I'm going to go into my head, into the center, and I'm going to pull. It just slightly angles that so that it's curved instead of a straight edge out there. Okay, sometimes it works better than the other time. Most times it does, but I don't like this little stitch that's sticking up. So this is where fine detailing comes in. I'm going to go back to the front here. I'm going to go one more stitch down there, and I'm going to come back in, come up the center. There, I like that rounded much better. There's just this little knobular thing there, but that's okay. I'm not going to stress about that. I'm going to put this down through the other side, pull it into the back. I'm going to assess the situation. I love it. I think they're placed beautifully. They look great. So now I can tie a knot, hide the yarn tail into my work. And there he is. Friends, what do you think? Do you love him? I wish I could hear you. I wish we could have coffee. I say that all the time, but I do. I wish we could get together and craft together. It would be so much fun. But for now, there's the fox. So there he is. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, my friends. Please be sure and show me your fox in my Facebook group. The link will be in the description box below. Thanks again for joining me. Take care and have a blessed day.